For you folks that may not have been to my channel before, I do book recommendations on occasion. And I have an interesting one for you. It's called Perfectly Awful, the Philadelphia 76ers horrendous and hilarious 1972 to 1973 season. It's by Charley Rosen. Now, Charley Rosen is contributor to hoopshype.com, USA Today Sports, and is the author of more than a dozen sports books, including Crazy Basketball, Nebraska 2011, Players and Pretenders, Nebraska 2007, and two books co-written with NBA coach Phil Jackson. Now, if you don't know who the 72-73 Sixers were, quite literally, they are the record-breaking worst team of all time in the NBA. Now, there was a lockout season that the Bobcats eh on, but they had the worst percentage, but they didn't have the worst record just for the simple fact of it's a shortened season. It's a lockout season, and it was kind of bad too. But this goes into game by game, goes into the players, goes into the coaches. Roy Rubin and Kevin Lowry, uh, those two. Now, Roy Rubin was just not somebody who should have been coaching the NBA. And Kevin Lowry, I think if he had been given a chance, might have been a decent coach for them, but it was just a really hilariously bad season. And so we're going to get into this book a little bit here.
Hey folks, this is Paul with Redneck Sports. I want to thank you for viewing my video, and I want to give you one thought process. There was a famous coach at the University of Tennessee by the name of General Robert Neyland. He had 6 maxims, but number 2 maxim is what everybody should apply to their life. Play for and make the breaks. When one comes your way, score. That's how to live your life right there.
So, this is a team that had a couple of good players on it. I mean, these were by the end of the season, they had some actually decent players. Hal Greer was in his last season. He was a guard. Uh, he was from Marshall. Kevin Lowry was a decent player. You had a few others that probably would have been better along the years. Uh, Tom Van Arsdale was one. Uh, but here's the problem with this all. They started out with a head coach, which is Roy Rubin. This came because Herb Kozlov, the owner, did not know basketball. And the guy that he founded the team with, uh, originally it was Philadelphia Warriors in Philadelphia. They moved, became the Golden State Warriors now. So Kozlov and a gentleman by the name of Richmond bought the Syracuse Nationals. They moved them to Philadelphia, renamed them the 76ers. Now, they would end up getting an NBA title before this because they had Wilt Chamberlain, and Wilt Chamberlain. It was a season that Bill Russell was trying to figure out how to coach and play at the same time. They brought in Roy Rubin, who was a decent high school coach, a decent college coach, but just did not understand how to be a pro coach. And they fired him after only half a season. They then had Kevin Lowry, who was a player, hurt part of the season, who was also coaching. And he ended up winning. Now, Roy Rubin only won 4 games. Kevin Lowry won 5. And this team just, they couldn't, they were trying, but they just couldn't get there. They couldn't. With Roy Rubin, it was a simple fact of that he made too many changes during a game. He would make too many substitutions, was didn't have the mindset for the game, and just totally screwed him over. Kevin Lowry was learning how to be a coach, and the team by that point that he took over just couldn't get everybody going at a good pace. They had a short break there for a little while after the All Star game where they were doing decent, but they just couldn't keep going at that pace. Injuries, player trades, those kinds of things. Uh, this is breaking down how each of these games went, what was behind it, and let me tell you, if you read this book, you'll figure out real quick by watching the WNBA what the WNBA is doing wrong and understand why the WNBA is in the shape that it is with certain teams, such as currently the Dallas Wings. It really is a informative book if you want to understand how a losing team operates. I recommend this book for anybody who's an NBA fan. Uh, there was another point that the Sixers got bad. They were tanking to the top. That's actually a book. I've covered it here. But they were trying to lose those games. They were losing those games for the simple fact of they were trying to get the right trade or the right drafts. The 72-73 Sixers were not trying to get a better draft. Um, they just had the wrong coaching. They had good players, just no good coaching. Even though I will say this much, one of the more interesting players that was on the team during that time was a gentleman by the name of John Q. Trapp. John Quincy Trapp. This guy fell out. He hadn't been heard of since 1995. Supposedly living in Detroit. Uh, he supposedly passed away in 2012, but they're not even sure what the date is. This is how far he fell off. Um, and he finished out the season. They traded him part of the way through. He was considered uncoachable. He was had attitude problems. Uh, he ended that season with the ABA's Denver Rockets and never played any meaningful basketball game again. He had a younger brother, George, and he died 90 in 2002 and had played in the NBA as well, but he was just uncoachable according to everybody. So him even being brought onto the team was a bad sign. Uh, Dave Sorensen, power forward, Freddie Boyd. Uh, he was a guard that played like 6 seasons. Jeff Halliburton was a cousin to Dr. J. He only played like 2 seasons. This is the kind of guys that they had, but they were all NBA quality. Unlike the Bobcats, who a lot of people say were D League at best, um, most of the players on this team played hard. They just didn't have a chance. And like Manny Leaks was a good player. He was the center. They just weren't coached right. And like I said, if you want to understand these losing teams in the WNBA, this is a perfect book to get an understanding of what a losing team, the breakdown of what happens there. But I thought I'd bring this to your attention. Um, real quick, hit like and subscribe. And if you followed me this far and like talking sports, I've got a link tree that's going to be in the description. And it's got a Patreon. I'm trying to raise $3,000. So if you want to help me out, that would be much appreciated. It's only like $1, so $1 a month. This has been Paul with Redneck Sports. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.
I want to thank you for watching my video. And if you like what you saw, like, subscribe, and comment. Y'all have a good day now.